So we're starting our process. We've just finished up the auditions for the spring term. I've got about 8 or 9 dancers that I'm going to be working with, but we haven't gotten together yet. Today was going to be the first day of our rehearsals, but scheduling is just not going to work out today. I've just been reflecting on the question, how then shall I live? I reflect on it often in all the things that I consume, all the media or books that I read or conversations that I have with others. It's always just scope that's in the back of my mind, processing my daily interactions. Not really purposefully, but it just is because that's what I'm making art about currently. There are 3 passages that I want to hang on to. If I record them here and write them down, then it solidifies where it lands with me, how I can be critical about the passage or how I can keep ruminating on it or thinking about it throughout the week. The first passage is from a book that I'm reading called Black Earth Wisdom. It's a collection of conversations with Black environmentalists by Leah Penningham. She wrote the introduction to the book. And there's a passage in the first essay that says, "Reverence asks us to be in conversation with history, not to omit narratives in search of comfort, nor to replicate the past without critical analysis." The essay is called "These Roots Run Deep." The next passage that I've been thinking about, I was listening to a podcast earlier, What Now with Trevor Noah. The co-host, Christiana Mbakwe Medina, said, "The conundrum of social progress is what you have is a generation of women who benefited from feminism but never experienced what made feminism necessary. Things we don't talk about," and this is later on in the conversation, she says, "the things we don't talk about is probably more than the things we do talk about. And so there's this ongoing generational amnesia when you have suffered in any kind of way." Feminism is just an example. That she goes on to relate this to children of immigrant parents and some other scenarios. We omit narratives in search of comfort or just trying to stabilize after trauma. Sometimes we omit, and it's not to the benefit of the generations to come. There's a disconnect there. The name of that podcast episode was American Amnesia. And the last, I'm always coming back to Audre Lorde to see what she has to say in this season and how it might influence what I'm making. She says at the end of a poem titled "A Song for Many Movements," "Our labor has become more important than our silence." And she repeats it twice. Maybe I'll come back around and read the whole poem again, but that part just stuck with me. Maybe it's the fact that she said it twice in a row. Maybe it's because it falls in the same line of these other passages. I was reading Black Earth Wisdom before bed. And then today, when I was doing my morning stuff, I'm listening to this podcast and these same themes of storytelling as a vehicle to remember the lessons learned from the past ties in with my idea of embodied storytelling. If we can take this story into ourselves, we can hold it. We know that movement and stories, we have them in our bodies. It's an internal wisdom that we have to rely on now that things are shifting and changing in such a drastic way. These are the ways that this question is stirring up in me and may become evident in the work. So we'll see.